After Yun Chujio returned to the Yun mansion, other than going to the old prince and the old princess place to build a good impression of her, she would cultivate in her room obediently. Unexpectedly, the fifth prince would come to court her every 2 or 3 days. Yun Chujio was simply annoyed. It just so happened that he was a prince. The Yun mansion could not stop him from entering. Yun Chujio had no choice but to announce that she was going into closed-door cultivation and would not see any guests. Only then did the fifth prince calm down a little. However, he still sent over many things from time to time. In an instant, the entire East Phoenix country knew that the fifth prince had a special liking for Yun Chujio. Hei Shinjio instantly became the object of envy and hatred for many women. Everyone sighed with emotion. Even though the fifth prince knew that Yun Chujio could not get married, he still treated her so well. What was the reason? It was because of love. Such a loving man was simply hard to find in this world. After Yun Chujio heard the rumors from Shihua, she could not help but scoff. A loving man? The fifth prince only coveted her identity as the divine phoenix emissary and the Yun family army. Thinking of the Yun family army, Yun Chujio then remembered that the Su Lian arranged for Yun Fengjian was about to succeed. Once she obtained the tiger talisman, her grandfather would ask the imperial edict to remove Yun Fengjian's title as the king of Yun. At that time, she would at least be temporarily safe in the king of Yun's mansion. However, before that, she should let Yun Jifeng cause some trouble. Otherwise, it would not be good if the Saint Martial Emperor allowed him to inherit the king of Yun. Yun Chujio asked Yun Jichen to tell her thoughts, and Yun Jichen naturally agreed without hesitation. Only when Yun Jifeng was stripped of his title as the crown prince would he have a chance to become the crown prince, or even the king of Yun. Within a few days, Yun Jifeng had made a fool of himself because he was competing with someone for the top position of a furnace, a cauldron, and a pavilion. Yun Fengjian was so angry that he gave him a good beating. Just as Yun Chujio was feeling proud that everything was going according to her plan, something big happened in the East Phoenix country. Martial Emperor Shingwu had died suddenly. Soon after, the news spread that the fifth prince was the murderer. Then, the news that the crown prince had killed the fifth prince and ascended to the throne was announced. He was given the title of Martial Emperor Wen. It happened so suddenly that Hei Shinjio did not have time to react. By the time she did, there was no turning back. After Martial Emperor Wen ascended to the throne, he immediately issued a decree to confer Princess Shiyu the title of Empress and to marry her in half a month. Yun Chujio immediately felt the seriousness of the situation. Leng Tianche became the emperor, and Princess Shiyu became the empress. The Zhengshi and Yun Fengjian would be even more powerful, not to mention that the civil and martial emperor hated her to the bone. If it weren't for the divine phoenix emissary as a protective talisman, the civil and martial emperor would have issued a decree to kill her long ago. Yun Chujio was puzzled. What exactly happened? She naturally did not believe that the fifth prince would commit patricide. It was highly likely that Leng Tianche had orchestrated it himself. However, Leng Tianche was hot-tempered. How could he be so scheming and ruthless? Who was the one who gave him the idea? Following Princess Shiyu's wedding, the status of the old duke and the old consort in the Yun mansion plummeted. Zheng Shi and Yun Fengjian could not even be bothered to put on a show. Yun Chujio felt that if this continued, Emperor Wenwu and Yun Fengjian would probably make a move against her. She had to turn the passive into the active. Yun Chujio found Yun Jichen. Yun Jichen sighed again and again. Little Jio, things happened too suddenly. I think we should cancel our plan. The current emperor is not like the previous emperor. Even if grandfather obtained the tiger talisman, the emperor will not strip away the title of first uncle. If things go wrong, he might even punish grandfather. Yun Chujio frowned. Fifth brother, why did Leng Tianche suddenly make a move? Logically speaking, he doesn't have such courage and ruthlessness. Yun Jichen shook his head. I'm also very puzzled. Previously, our progress was very smooth, but almost overnight, the matter was completely overturned. Sigh, time and fate, little Jio, you should seek your own fortune. Yun Chujio could not help but laugh coldly. Fifth brother, do you think that I'm the only one who wants to seek my own fortune? Third aunt has always been on bad terms with the Zhengshi. Once the civil and martial emperor has a firm foothold, not to mention the three of you, even the Prince Ping's estate would probably not be able to escape. The expression on Yun Zikin's face changed from helplessness to shock and panic. He did not doubt the possibility that Yun Chujio had mentioned. The new emperor had to find a target to establish his power. Prince Ping's residence was undoubtedly a good choice. It was famous and did not have the protection of the Yun family army. It was perfect for establishing his power. Yun Zikin's body was immediately drenched in cold sweat. He had originally thought that he would be able to keep his life if he kept quiet. Now it seemed that he was too naive. Yun Chujio didn't say anything all this while. She just chewed on the spirit fruit in her hand. Yun Jichen gritted his teeth. Little Jio, what do you want to do? Naturally, I want to replace you. I'll help you take the throne. Don't worry, I'm not interested in the throne. I'm helping myself by helping you. I just want to live freely. I hate the feeling of powerlessness when I'm restricted by others. Yun Jichen laughed bitterly. Little Jio, let's not talk about whether the throne is the throne or not. We're completely in a passive position now. How can we replace him? Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips and whispered a few words to Yun Jichen. The expression on Yun Zikin's face gradually changed from suspicion to shock. Little Jio, although the method you mentioned sounds good, don't forget that there's another person who might ruin our plan. Are you talking about the imperial tutor? Since he had not expressed his opinion on such a big matter like Martial Emperor Shengwa's death, it was clear that he was not prepared to get involved in this muddy water. After all, he has the Li Hate Palace behind him. No one who becomes the emperor would dare to provoke him. Yun Chujio said with a faint smile. She only found out recently that no wonder the imperial tutor was so awesome. No wonder the emperor did not dare to do anything to him. It turned out that the imperial tutor was a member of the Li Hate Palace. Speaking of the Li Hen Palace, it was said that it was an extremely awesome force. Compared to the Li Hen Palace, the strength of the East Phoenix Kingdom was like the sun and candlelight. There was no comparison at all. Yun Chujio had a vague idea in her heart. The imperial tutor that the Li Hen Palace had sent to the four countries was like an imperial envoy. He was above all the nobles and could control the four countries at any time. Moreover, it was the kind of control that could be brainwashed. He was really powerful. Yun Jichen nodded. Little Jio, since that's the case, let's move separately. Okay. After Yun Jichen left, Yun Chujio hopped into the old prince's study. The old prince had aged quite a bit recently. It was obvious that it was because of the recent changes. The old prince saw Yun Chujio and smiled. Little Jio, didn't you just come here this morning? Why are you here again? Yun Chujio sighed faintly. Grandfather, I've always wanted to say something to you, but I didn't know how to say it. After thinking about it, it's better for me to say it. The old duke frowned. If you have something to say, just say it. What do you want to say? Grandfather, our Yun family is going to be finished. Perhaps even our ancestral grave will be dug up. Yun Chujio said with a sorrowful expression. The old duke stood up immediately and his body could not help but tremble. You, what nonsense are you spouting? Yun Chujio touched her nose guiltily and quickly said, Grandfather, don't be so agitated. Let's talk after we sit down. Let's talk after we sit down. The old duke slapped the desk. Little Jio, it's fine if you usually mess around, but if you don't explain it clearly today, I won't forgive you. Yun Chujio smiled embarrassedly. Grandfather, I'm usually very obedient. When did I mess around? You didn't mess around? You didn't mess around. Who stole the mandarin fish in your grandmother's courtyard? You didn't mess around. The flowers in the backyard were all eaten by your rabbits? And, every time the old royal highness said this, Hei Xingjia's face stiffened. She laughed and said, Grandfather, let's not talk about this trivial matter. Let's get down to business. The old royal highness glared at her fiercely. Trivial matter? It was clearly something that happened in the past month. Who knew who this little Jio's personality was following? She was too jumpy. Grandfather, what I said just now was not alarmist. This was the result of my careful consideration. Don't think that our Yun family can be said to be like boiling oil in a raging fire. It was extremely popular for a moment, but in fact, it was just a flash in the pan. Whether it was the late emperor or the current civil and martial emperor, they were determined to get the Yun family army. Our Yun imperial residence was a thorn in the emperor's flesh. It was better in the past. After all, you are wise and wise. Even if the late emperor tried to play tricks, you could easily resolve it. Yun Chujio stole a glance at the old duke when she said this. She saw that his expression had eased up a little. This fellow thought to himself, as expected, one must put on 1,000 layers of clothing and never put on a flattering act. When it was time to flatter, one must still flatter. Yun Chujio continued, but it's different now. The Yun family's army has fallen into uncle's hands. Sooner or later, it will be handed over to cousin Jifeng. You know cousin Jifeng's character and ability. It can be said that it's a long story. When that time comes, coupled with sister Shiyu's support, the Yun family's army will most likely be in the hands of the new emperor. When that time comes, do you think that he will tolerate the Yun residents remaining in the world? When that time comes, if he were to casually accuse the Yun family of treason, not a single member of the Yun family would be able to survive. The Yun family's ancestral mausoleum might not even be preserved. This is to say that in the long run, to say that in the short run, you are aware of the character of first uncle and first aunt. Right now, nothing has happened yet, and they have already treated you and grandmother this way. If in the future, their wings grow strong, or to put it bluntly, if you two left, how would the other branches of the Yun family fare well? Without the new emperor making a move, more than half of our Yun family would be destroyed by them. At that time, not only would our Yun mansion fall apart, but our reputation would also be tarnished. Do you think you are worthy of the ancestors of the Yun family? The old duke's expression became more and more unsightly. Finally, he slapped the desk. Impudent! What nonsense! Yun Chujio sighed. Grandfather, my words are indeed a little harsh, but please think carefully about whether what I said is right or not. There will always be trouble in the future. If you still don't do anything, our Yun family will really be finished. The old duke was so angry that he was twitching. You just said finished, but you had to say finished. You were definitely sincere. The old royal highness was angry, but he knew that Yun Chujio was right. He could not sleep these days, and the future of the Yun family was indeed bleak. Every time at this time, the old royal highness would think of Yun Fengjin, whose whereabouts were unknown. If Fengjin was still here, there would not be so much trouble. The old duke thought about it and sighed. If your father was still around, how would there be such a predicament? One Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Grandfather, even though my father isn't around, don't I still have me? The old duke glared at her. What else can you do apart from causing trouble? Yun Chujio, she had clearly restrained herself a lot, all right? If it was according to her usual temperament, would the Yun mansion still be so quiet? Grandfather, I have a way to completely solve this predicament. Do you want to hear it? The old royal highness looked at Yun Chujio with a very untrusting gaze. Speak. Yun Chujio kissed her own plan and then looked at the old royal highness calmly. The old prince did not say anything for a long time. He had always thought that Yun Chujio was a silly and sweet person. After hearing what Yun Chujio just said, he was suddenly unable to react. This was not a silly and sweet little sheep. This was clearly a little fox, and it was the kind of nine-tailed little fox. The old prince was silent for a long time, and then said, "What do you think the chances of winning are?" "Of course it's 100%. Either we don't do it or we must succeed. Don't forget, I'm the messenger of the divine phoenix. The divine phoenix will look after us." Yun Chujio lied with her eyes wide open. The old prince didn't know that this guy's bad attributes, so he immediately believed it. He said in a deep voice, "Okay. If you can get the tiger talisman, then leave the rest to me. But once the matter is done, you have to leave the lives of your uncle's family. Of course, although they are not kind, I cannot be unrighteous. Unless they stubbornly resist, I will not kill them," Yun Chujio said with confidence. The old prince did not know that this guy was playing with words. He nodded with gratification. You are a very kind child. Since that's the case, you can make the arrangements. Yun Chujio turned around and left the study with a smile. Her eyes were cold. Yun Fengjian coveted her mother. Zheng Shi and Princess Shiyu wanted to harm her and her mother's lives. Yun Jifeng was in cahoots with them. Was she going to let them celebrate the new year? If she killed them, so be it. When the time came, she could just find an excuse. As for whether the old prince and the old princess would be happy or not, it was not within her consideration. Before Yun Chujio reached her own courtyard, she heard the screams of Shi Hua and Shi Shui coming from inside the courtyard. Yun Chujio's heart sank. She quickened her pace and entered the courtyard. She saw Shi Hua and Shi Shui being pressed to the ground by someone and being punished with a cane. Nanny-san, who was beside Zheng Shi, said with a vicious face, "You two little bitches who are betraying the family. The consort asked you to go, but you dare not go. I think you are courting death." Yun Chujio jumped over and kicked Granny-san away. Then she stared at the stunned servants with a cold gaze. Get lost. Although those servants were relying on Zheng Shi's power, they were still a little timid when they thought of Yun Chujio's identity as a divine phoenix messenger. Otherwise, they would not have taken advantage of Yun Chujio's absence to deal with Shi Hua and Shi Shui. Granny-san got up, rubbed her waist, and left with her people with hatred. Yun Chujio looked at Shi Hua and Shi Shui, who were seriously injured, and her eyes were cold. Zheng Shi's actions were obviously to test her, and they would attack her very soon. She had to act quickly. 3 days later, Yun Jichen received Yun Fengjian's tiger talisman. Yun Chujio immediately brought the tiger talisman to the old duke. That night, the old duke brought He Xinjiao out of the Yun residence and headed straight for the city gate. Although In City had troops guarding the city, Yun Jichen had already arranged for them to arrive at the Yun family's army base. Although the old duke had given the tiger talisman to Yun Fengjian for a few years, most of the generals of the Yun family army were promoted by Yun Chujio's father, Yun Fengjin. Therefore, the old duke did not spend much effort to control the Yun family army. He Xinjiao had people kill all of Yun Fengjian's trusted aides. The old duke was really shocked by Yun Chujio's behavior. However, thinking that there was no benefit in being a woman, he let her be. The old duke led the Yun family army directly into In City and headed straight for the imperial palace. Just as he arrived at the entrance of the imperial palace, he met Yun Fengjian, who was leading the royal guards. Yun Fengjian received a letter from his trusted aide, and only then did he realize that his tiger talisman had been swapped. One could imagine the grievance in his heart. Yun Fengjian's face was gloomy as he said, "Father, what are you doing? Are you planning to rebel?" Yun Chujio sneered and said, "Uncle, I'm following the orders of the divine phoenix." Lung Tianche killed his father and killed his brother. He was not fit to be the emperor of our East Phoenix Kingdom. Therefore, we have to uphold justice for the heavens and uphold justice. Surrender now. For the sake of our relatives, I'll spare your life. Yun Fengjian stared at Yun Chujio coldly and said, "So you're the one who instigated this. I shouldn't have brought you back in the first place. Father, our Yun family has always been a loyal family. Are you really going to rebel?" The old prince sighed. "Beast, do you really need me to say what you have done? Moreover, this is the decree of the divine phoenix. Being loyal to the monarch is important, but the decree of the divine phoenix is more important. Surrender." Yun Fengjian laughed sinisterly. "Father, you forced me to do this. Bring them up." Following Yun Fengjian's words, the old princess consort and the other members of the Yun family were brought up. "Father, if you insist on doing this, don't blame me for being impolite. Even if I die, I will let these people die with me." The old royal highness was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He trembled and said, "Beast, beast, you are simply inhuman." Yun Fengjian sneered and said, "This is all because you forced me. I have no choice. In order to be loyal to the emperor, I can only use this method. You hand over the tiger talisman immediately, or else I will start a massacre." The people of the Yun family were all trembling. They had already begged Yun Fengjian, Zheng Shi, and the others, so it was naturally useless. At this moment, they all looked at the old duke with pleading faces. The old duke was angry and anxious. He didn't know what to do for a moment. Yun Chujio clapped her hands. Yun Jifeng was thrown to the ground like a dead dog. Yun Chujio smiled and said, "Uncle, I advise you to surrender. Otherwise, I will kill cousin Jifeng." Yun Fengjian gritted his teeth. His son could be born again without him. He knew that if he surrendered, he would not have a good ending, so he gritted his teeth and said, "Bitch! If I dare to kill Jifeng, I will kill all the people behind me." "I'll give you the same words. If you kill those people behind you, I will kill Yun Jifeng," Yun Chujio said with a cold smile. Who would not know how to threaten people? For a moment, the two sides were in a stalemate. After 15 minutes, a trace of ruthlessness flashed across Yun Fengjian's face. "Father, if you still don't hand over the tiger talisman, I'm going to make my move." At this moment, chaos broke out behind Yun Fengjian. It turned out that Yun Jichen had already arranged for people to sneak into the imperial palace. It was just that he didn't find a suitable opportunity to save people at the moment. Yun Chujio waved her hand. "Go! Kill them all. Leave no one alive." The Yun family soldiers were supposed to only listen to the old lord's orders, but they all rushed forward at this moment because He Xinjiu was holding a tiger talisman in her hand. The old prince was thinking about the old consort and the others, so he naturally did not pay attention to these things. Taking advantage of the chaotic situation, he hurriedly leaped towards the Yun family members. Yun Chujio looked at Yun Jifeng on the ground and killed him with a kitchen knife. It was a waste of food for such a thing to live. The battle was abnormally short. After all, the Yun family army had more than 100,000 people, while the imperial guards of the imperial palace only had a few thousand people. They were not on the same level at all. There were other military areas in the East Phoenix Kingdom, but firstly, it was beyond their reach. Secondly, they did not dare to fight the Yun family army head-on. Therefore, the battle ended when the sky was just beginning to brighten. He Xinjiu naturally would not spare the lives of Yun Fengjian and Jing Shi. This fellow told the old duke and the old princess that the two of them were killed in the chaotic battle. The old duke and the old princess hearts were completely chilled after this night, so they did not say anything. What was unfortunate for He Xinjiu was that they did not find any traces of Emperor Wenwu and Princess Shiyu even after searching a few times. They did not know if the two had taken advantage of the chaos to escape or if there was another secret passage in the palace. What followed was naturally the battle for the throne. Although the crown prince had escaped and the fifth prince had died, there were still the second, third, and fourth princes. Naturally, they were all eyeing the throne covetously. Yun Chujio had people gather the three princes and all the civil and military officials in the throne room. Old Duke Yun, Yun Jichen, and the others were naturally among them. The three princes looked at each other with hostility. Although they knew that this throne would be a puppet of the Yun mansion, it would still be the throne of the 9/5. Yun Jichen thought of Yun Chujio's previous promise and felt a little excited and hesitant. Although he had always wanted to seize the position of King Yun, now that the throne had become the throne, he felt a little uneasy. Why not let his grandfather be the emperor for a few years? He would talk about it in the future. Yun Chujio clapped her hands. More than a dozen Yun family soldiers entered the hall and took control of the three princes without any explanation. Before the three princes had the chance to question Yun Chujio had already carried a large kitchen knife and killed them all. Whether it was the old Duke Yun or the civil and military officials, they were all stunned. Was this Yun Chujio crazy? What was she trying to do? Yun Chujio held the large kitchen knife and asked the civil and military officials of the East Phoenix Kingdom with a smile. Unfortunately, the three princes all died of a sudden illness. Who do you think should sit on the throne? Those officials all felt as if their hearts were baying for blood. Sudden illness? Do you think they are blind? You were clearly the one who killed them all right. They used to think that this divine Phoenix emissary had a kind heart, but now it looked like he was simply a devil. His spirit energy was only at the first level of the spirit illusion realm, but his methods were simply biting people to the bone. Everyone looked at each other. Who would be the emperor? The first person they thought of was naturally old Duke Yun. In terms of seniority and strength, old Duke Yun was the best candidate. The second person they thought of was the third, fourth, and fifth masters of the Yun mansion. These few people were the right age, but they did not know which was more suitable. The third person they thought of was Yun Jichen. Everyone knew that Yun Jichen had played a great role in this matter, and he had the Prince Ping's mansion behind him. But now they had crossed all these candidates. There was only one person left in their hearts, and that was the little devil in front of them. A minister mustered up his courage and said, "Ninth Miss, you are the divine phoenix emissary. It is most suitable for you to sit on the throne." Someone took the lead and someone immediately echoed, "That's right, Ninth Lady. You are the daughter of the god of war and also the divine phoenix emissary. No one is more suitable than you to sit on the throne." Yun Chujio waved her hand. "Although I am the master of the divine phoenix, there are so many people in the Yun family. My grandfather, my third uncle, my fourth uncle, my fifth uncle, and my cousin Jichen are all more suitable than me. Although the divine phoenix does indeed want me to become the emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom, I am not a person who loves power. Moreover, I am timid. I am not suitable to be the emperor, am I?" The corners of everyone's eyes twitched violently. "You are timid? Is it really good for you to lie through your teeth like this? Moreover, what you said was a complete rejection, all right?" Everyone hurriedly tried to persuade her a few more times. Yun Chujio pretended to reject them a few times and then sighed. "All right, since you insist on this, I can only reluctantly ascend the throne. Your previous positions are still the same. I will observe and observe first before rewarding and punishing you. My title will be called the country-toppling beauty, the peerless and peerless female emperor, or simply the female emperor of the world. I will announce it to the world immediately and hold the coronation ceremony 3 days later." Everyone was dumbfounded by He Xinjia's series of titles. They thought to themselves, isn't she still attached to power? She even thought of a title and could not wait to call herself emperor. If she doesn't want to be the emperor, who would she lie to? Yun Chujio gave a few more instructions and dismissed the ministers. Only the old duke and the Yun family were left in the throne room. Yun Chujio coughed a few times. Cough, cough. "Logically speaking, I shouldn't be the one sitting on the throne, but this is the divine phoenix's idea. There's really nothing I can do about it. But don't worry, my health isn't good. I might die one day. When that time comes, any of you who are willing to sit on the throne can do so." When the members of the Yun family heard Yun Chujio's words, the corners of their eyes twitched. The old duke was indeed not interested in the throne. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given the throne to Yun Chujio's father so early on. As for the Yun family's third, fourth, and fifth sons, they were all people who just muddled along. They were already satisfied with the throne for no reason. They really didn't care much about being the emperor. Yun Jichen wanted to be the emperor, but when he thought about Yun Chujio's methods, he felt that he might not be able to win against her, so he gave up on the idea. In fact, even if Yun Jichen had thoughts, he didn't dare to resist because the tiger talisman of the Yun family army was in Yun Chujio's hands. Seeing that the members of the Yun family were very tactful, Yun Chujio immediately said with a smile, "We are all one family. As the saying goes, we share blessings and hardships together. Everyone, don't worry. From now on, this East Phoenix country will belong to our Yun family." Everyone agreed with a few words and then dispersed. Only the old duke stayed behind. He didn't care if Yun Chujio was the female emperor of Zephyr. He pointed at her nose and asked, "Little Jio, when did you switch out the tiger talisman?" Yun Chujio giggled. "Grandfather, I was afraid that you would be deceived by others. So when I left the Yun family's military base, I secretly changed it." The old duke first glared at her and then let out a long sigh. "I don't care what you want this throne for. Remember, don't do anything outrageous or else my old bones won't listen to you." Yun Chujio nodded solemnly. "Grandfather, don't worry. I only want this throne to find my father and mother. Once I find them, I will give the throne to fifth brother. This lousy throne is really not attractive to me." The old duke was skeptical. He believed Yun Chujio when she said that she wanted to find Yun Fengjin and Yi Lan. However, this fellow said that the throne was not attractive to her. No matter how he looked at it, he did not mean it. After sending off the old prince, the freshly made Empress Jiao valiantly went to the divine hall. The national master gave her quite a bit of face and immediately got someone to let Yun Chujio in. Yun Chujio beamed as she took out some precious spirit herbs and handed them to the national master. National master, we share honor and disgrace. It's all for the sake of the divine phoenix and the East Phoenix Kingdom. Please take care of us in the future. The imperial preceptor smiled as he put the items away. Then he said, after 3 days, I will look at you in a new light. Your majesty is truly unexpected. Yun Chujio's smile became even more radiant. Imperial preceptor, this is all thanks to the divine phoenix. I am also very helpless. The corners of the imperial preceptor's eyes twitched. If the smile on your face was not so radiant, your words would be more believable. The two of them exchanged a few more pleasantries before Yun Chujio asked, Imperial tutor, the reason I came this time is firstly to see you. Secondly, I want to ask if you know the reason behind Lung Tianche's sudden attack and his sudden disappearance? The imperial tutor smiled faintly. As the imperial tutor, I am only responsible for the divine phoenix and the blood oath. I will not interfere in other matters, so your majesty should not ask too much. Yun Chujio pursed her lips in her heart. This old charlatan was really tight-lipped. She did not believe that the Li Hen Palace was so powerful. How could they not know about it? However, since the imperial tutor did not say anything, it was not appropriate for her to ask any more. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, she left. After Yun Chujio returned to the imperial palace, she immediately gave the order to find the whereabouts of Lung Tianche and Princess Shiyu. She also sent many people to find the whereabouts of Yun Fengjin and Yi Lan. He Xinjiu occupied the huge imperial palace all by herself. After a few days of excitement, she felt that it was no longer interesting. She pondered over the recent events and felt that there must be something fishy going on. However, she did not have any leads. She recalled that Xue Wuji said that Di Baiming was seriously injured when he visited the Yun family to find Yi Lan. Now that she thought about it, she felt that there was something fishy going on. Di Baiming's spiritual power should be much higher than the Yun family's. How could he be seriously injured? Yun Chujio wanted to go to the immortal Yuan continent to ask Xue Wuji about it. However, although she was now the female emperor of Fenghua, she was too weak. It was better for her not to go out and show off. This guy cherished his life very much. He picked hundreds of guards with high spiritual power from the Yun family's army and constantly patrolled the palace. This guy felt that it was really inconvenient for the towering sky continent to not have the heart demon oath. Otherwise, she would feel much more at ease. This guy had already understood the so-called blood oath. To put it bluntly, the blood oath meant that both parties signed a contract in front of the imperial preceptor, with the Li Hen Palace as the guarantor. What was the use of this? No one knew what the Li Hen Palace was. If the people inside were not good people, the blood oath would be of no use at all. It could only fool ordinary people. In the following period of time, Yun Chujio only eliminated some of Lung Tianche's followers. She did not make any major changes to the personnel. This fellow knew that she had used a large kitchen knife to force her to take the throne. If she made too big a move, it was easy to cause a rebellion. It was better to simmer it down and take it slowly. This fellow knew the importance of public opinion. He asked Meng Yanshou to weave a dream for some of the citizens of An City. Soon, news spread that the female emperor of Fenghua was chosen by the divine phoenix. She was the best candidate to adapt to the right time, place, and people. At the same time, Meng Yanshou often came to An City to do good deeds. Today, he saved a child who was almost trampled by a wildebeest, and tomorrow, he saved an old man who was on the verge of death. Empress Jiao's acting skills were online, and her script was reasonable. She quickly won the reputation of an emperor that had never been seen before in the history of the East Phoenix country. Even the old prince felt that although this granddaughter of his had a lot of bad water, she was really the material to become an emperor. Of course, the old prince and the old princess took a long time to digest the fact that the originally kind and silly girl had become a little devil in their eyes. Yun Chujio felt that in her position, she had to do something useful. Therefore, this guy worked hard for a few nights and produced a copy of the East Phoenix Kingdom, Year 5, Regulations Plan. Simply put, it was how to put the spirit stones from the South Dragon Kingdom, West Tiger Kingdom, and North Xian Kingdom into the pockets of the East Phoenix Kingdom. Yun Chujio set up a department specifically for Yun Jichen to be the leader. Then, she threw the plan at Yun Jichen. Fifth brother, don't say that I mistreated you. The opportunity for you to become rich is here. Yun Jichen saw the words on the cover and the corner of his eyes twitched. What the hell was this? When he saw your dog-like handwriting again, the corner of his eyes twitched even more. However, when he saw the contents, he was immediately shocked. His voice trembled a little. Your Majesty, did you write this? Yun Chujio nodded calmly. Fifth brother, the people are rich and the country is strong. Don't underestimate business. Yun Jichen nodded his head in agreement. Cultivation was originally a matter of burning money. Naturally, the more money the better. Also, don't get too close to the Prince of Peace's residence. Otherwise, when you ascend the throne in the future, I'm afraid there will be trouble for your relatives. Yun Chujio said. Yun Jichen nodded his head in a daze. He had long given up on the idea of the throne. From what little Gio meant, was she really going to give up the throne to him in the future? With this understanding, Yun Jichen put in a lot of effort in doing things. Soon, many shops appeared in East Phoenix Country like bamboo shoots after a rain. In particular, a restaurant called Chien Duo 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 quickly opened to the other 3 countries, and business was abnormally booming. Needless to say, the behind-the-scenes owner of this restaurant was naturally Hei Shinjio. On one hand, she was doing it to earn money, and on the other hand, she was doing it to gather information. There was no place more convenient to gather information than a restaurant. Seeing that everything was on the right track, Yun Chujio began to get people to gather books on alchemy and talisman refinement. Then, she began to fiddle with alchemy and talisman refinement in the palace. The Imperial Guards were in deep shit. Yun Chujio was afraid that the smell of alchemy would cause unnecessary trouble. Therefore, every time the alchemy was completed, she would deliberately refine a batch of pills. Moreover, there were many medicinal herbs with a strong smell added to it. Hence, every time this fellow finished refining the pills, the entire Imperial Palace would be filled with a sour and refreshing smell. Hence, very quickly, there was a rumor in the 4 nations. The Eastern Phoenix Country's female emperor, Fenghua, liked to refine pills very much, but she was a useless pill refiner. Yun Chujio was happy to see this happen. Everyone had their flaws. If she was too perfect, how would others live? Even so, the growing momentum of the East Feng Kingdom still made the other 3 kingdoms wary. They had originally thought that the East Feng Kingdom would suffer a great loss in their national strength after the successive internal conflicts, and they could take the opportunity to divide the territory of the East Feng Kingdom. Later on, they heard that the East Feng Kingdom actually let a little girl become some sort of female emperor of Zephyr. They even despised her to death, thinking that the people of the East Feng Kingdom had most likely lost their minds. Who would have thought that not only did the East Phoenix Country not weaken, it even became more and more powerful. At this rate, their 3 countries would be in a passive position. The monarch of the North Mystic Kingdom suggested that rather than being passive, it would be better to take the initiative to attack and formulate some policies to restrict the merchants of the East Phoenix Kingdom. The monarchs of the South Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom felt that what he said made sense and responded one after another. As a result, the 3 kingdoms issued some regulations one after another, all of which were aimed at the merchants of the East Phoenix Kingdom. In a short period of time, the merchants of the East Phoenix Kingdom suffered heavy losses. Yun Jichen found Yun Chujio with a burning fire. Your Majesty, the 3 kingdoms of the Southern Dragon Kingdom are ganging up on our East Phoenix Kingdom. If this continues, the merchants will suffer heavy losses. Who knows what kind of trouble they might cause? The corners of Yun Chujia's mouth curled up. What are you afraid of? They are targeting us, so we won't target them. Are you stupid? The corner of Yun Zikin's mouth twitched. Your Majesty, we are 1 against 3, how can we be their match? Moreover, how can we target them? There aren't many merchants from the other 3 countries in our East Phoenix country. Even if we target them, we will not be able to recover much of our losses. Yun Chujio revealed an unfathomable smile. Isn't this simple? Then let them have no time to target us. He looked at Yun Chujio with a blank expression. Your Majesty, what do you mean by that? If I remember correctly, the Spirit Stone Mine in Pingluo Mountain is located on the border between the Southern Dragon Kingdom and the Western Tiger Kingdom. It's shared between the 2 kingdoms, right? Yun Chujio asked instead of answering. Yun Jichen nodded. That's right. At that time, the 2 kingdoms even fought a war over the ownership of the Spirit Stone Mine. After that, the 2 sides signed a contract, and that was the end of it. Arrange for people with high spiritual power to rob the spirit stones extracted from the West Tiger Country. First, they pretended to be people from the Southern Dragon Country to sow discord between the 2 countries. If they were found out, then they would be led to find out that the mastermind was the North Mystic Country. Oh right, send someone to send a letter to the North Mystic Country saying that we are friendly neighbors. In the future, we will reduce the taxes on the North Mystic Country's merchants by half, Yun Chujio said with a smile. Yun Jichen, Your Majesty, is it really good for you to be so sarcastic? If that was the case, it would be a miracle if the South Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom did not suspect that there was something fishy going on between the North Xian Kingdom and their East Phoenix Kingdom. The alliance between the 3 kingdoms would definitely be loosened. Moreover, if they were lucky, they might even be able to start a war between the South Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom. Yun Chujio continued, in order to prove the crime of the North Xian Kingdom, don't you have some of the privacy of the officials of the South Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom that you have collected? Choose some explosive ones and spread them out. Then, mix in some rumors about the princes of the 2 kingdoms and make them fight among themselves. Also, help the South Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom dig out a few spies of the North Mystic Kingdom in those 2 kingdoms and do it cleanly and beautifully. Yun Jichen looked at Yun Chujio with a dumbfounded face. Damn it. Fortunately, he was wise and did not fight with her for the throne. Just this man's bad water could torture him to death thousands of times. Yun Jichen immediately arranged for people to follow He Xinjia's instructions. It did not take long before he heard that the Southern Dragon Kingdom and the Western Tiger Kingdom had a huge falling out. The Northern Xian Kingdom had sent an envoy to mediate, and it was immediately discovered that the mastermind was the Northern Xian Kingdom. The Northern Xian Kingdom had yet to explain clearly about the matter of snatching the Spirit Stone Mine, and the Southern Dragon Kingdom and the Western Tiger Kingdom had caught a few spies from the Northern Xian Kingdom within their respective countries. The most infuriating thing was that the South Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom had even heard that the East Phoenix Kingdom had given the North Mystic Kingdom a certain preferential policy. It turned out that the East Phoenix Kingdom and the North Mystic Kingdom were actually one and the same. Were they treating the 2 countries as fools? The Southern Dragon Kingdom and the Western Tiger Kingdom naturally would not swallow their anger. First, they sent a fierce letter to the Xian Kingdom, which was translated into plain English. You actually joined forces with the East Phoenix Kingdom to scam us. You are really shameless. Following that, the Southern Dragon Kingdom and the Western Tiger Kingdom began to punish the merchants of the Xian Kingdom. They even discussed joining forces to take care of the Xian Kingdom, making the Xian Kingdom pay the price in blood. Emperor Beijing of the North Mystic Kingdom was instantly paralyzed. It was supposed to be 3 against 1, but why did it turn into a rebellion? He was wronged. He was almost wronged to death. He did not send anyone to snatch any bullshit spiritual stone mines. He did not spread any gossip, but the spy was sent by him. It was hard to argue with him. What should they do now? If the Southern Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom really went all out, how could the North Mystic Kingdom be a match for the 2 kingdoms? Wouldn't they just sit back and wait for their kingdoms to be destroyed? Thus, a minister suggested, "Your Majesty, the Eastern Kingdom has already expressed its goodwill to our kingdom. Why don't we join forces with the East Phoenix Kingdom? This way we will be evenly matched. The Southern Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom won't be able to do anything to us." Emperor Beijing pondered for a moment. There was only one way now. Then, he eagerly sent an envoy to Empress Jiao to deliver the letter. The gist of it was that our North Shen Kingdom had been fooled by those two bastards previously. Now that we have seen their true colors, let's be good friends. Yun Chujiao passed the letter to all the ministers of Bei Shen Kingdom. Most of them did not know what Empress Jiao had done. They thought that the Bei Shen Kingdom had learned from their mistakes and had a conscience. Only Yun Jichen and a few others felt a surge of admiration for Empress Jiao. What kind of mind was this? Not only did they manage to break the Three Kingdoms blockade on the East Phoenix Kingdom, but they also managed to pull the Bei Shen Kingdom to their side. Yun Jichen lit a candle for the other three kingdoms. He felt that if this continued, the three kingdoms would sooner or later be destroyed by the female emperor. In the following period of time, the East Phoenix Kingdom and the Bei Shen Kingdom had a close relationship. Moreover, the East Phoenix Kingdom was quite generous. Seeing that the Bei Shen Kingdom had very few cold spiritual fruits, they not only gave Emperor Beijing a lot of spiritual fruits, they even specially stated that the spirit fruits they sold to the Bei Shen Kingdom in the future would be sold at a 20% discount. Emperor Beijing was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes. This Empress Fenghua was the most reliable. She was much better than those two bastards. How could Emperor Beijing know that the reason why Empress Jiao did this was because the other two kingdoms did not lack spirit fruits at all? The Dongfeng Kingdom's spirit fruits were mainly sold to the Bei Shen Kingdom. When the Southern Dragon Kingdom and the West Tiger Kingdom saw this, they were even more certain that everything that had happened before was done by the North Shen Kingdom. They hated the North Shen Kingdom to the core. At this moment, the Southern Dragon Kingdom caught a few spies. They were actually from the West Tiger Kingdom. What made Emperor Nanshen the most angry was that one of the spies was an old lover of one of his concubines. Emperor Nanshen was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. When he woke up, he first killed that concubine and then sent troops to attack the West Tiger Kingdom. The West Tiger Kingdom was also furious. You can't control your own woman, so why are you blaming the West Tiger Kingdom? Moreover, they also caught several spies of the South Dragon Kingdom. When a crow falls on a pig, no one can blame anyone. Therefore, the two countries completely fell out with each other and had a conflict at the border. Although the scale was not large, they did not have the time to find trouble with the East Phoenix Kingdom for the time being. Later on, there was a record in the history books of the Towering Sky Empire. In the first year of the reign of the female emperor, the empress was far away in An City. Just based on the information gathered in the restaurant, the South Dragon Country, West Tiger Country, and North Shen Country were thrown into chaos. It could be said that in the midst of strategizing, victory was decided from 1,000 miles away. With the crisis resolved, Empress Jiao began to live a carefree life again. This fellow felt that her desire for money had finally weakened a lot, because this fellow was really too rich now. She didn't even know how much money she had. She had almost refined the lightning spirit energy in her body, so she could only wait to be struck by lightning. Thus, she began to wander around. The first place she went to was naturally the several manors of the Yun family. Empress Jiao conferred the thrones of her third uncle, fourth uncle, and fifth uncle. The names were also very easy to remember. King Yun Shan, King Yun Si, King Yun Wu, and the position of King Yun was vacant. This fellow was prepared to leave it to her father. She had always believed that her father was still alive. Sooner or later, the three of them would be reunited. The three sons of the Yun family were better off. After all, the He family had always been on good terms with Yun Chujiao. The fourth and fifth sons of the Yun family were in an awkward situation, especially the Liao family. They were afraid that Yun Chujiao would look for trouble, so they were so eager to please her that they almost called her their ancestors. Empress Jiao decided that when she was in a bad mood in the future, she would come to the fourth house of the Yun family for a stroll. Seeing the Liao family and Yun Ziluo's expressions, she was really relieved. Time flew by quickly. Yun Chujio counted with her fingers. It had been a year and a half since the pretty boy was frozen. She wondered if the pretty boy's seal had been lifted. If the pretty boy knew that she had become the female emperor of Zephyr, he would definitely be shocked. She was really looking forward to it. In the morning court, Prime Minister Sima reported, "Your Majesty, the grand meeting of the four nations will be held once every 3 years soon. You have to prepare as soon as possible." Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. Grand meeting of the four nations? What is it used for? Prime Minister Sima knew that the female emperor of Zephyr was from the immortal Yuan continent, so he patiently explained. The gist of it was that the four nations would hold a grand meeting of the four nations every 3 years. Although it was said to be a grand meeting, it was actually a competition. This was also a competition between the four nations. The content of the competition was nothing more than alchemy, talisman making, weapon refining, array formation, beast taming, and spiritual power. Finally, the rankings would be compiled. Yun Chujio nodded, and then asked curiously, "How are the results of our East Phoenix country in the past years?" Prime Minister Sima's face was somewhat stiff as he said, that our East Phoenix country has always been the first in friendship, and the second in competition. Calm, speak human language. Cough cough. When retired emperor was around, our East Phoenix kingdom could still obtain 3rd place. After retired emperor went missing, our East Phoenix kingdom would usually always be in 4th place. Yun Chujio, 4th place? Couldn't he just say that he was in last place? Retired emperor was naturally referring to Yun Fengjin. Due to Yun Fengjin's terrifying spiritual power, the East Phoenix kingdom could win back a city in the spiritual power competition. However, the other competitions were utterly miserable. The South Dragon Kingdom was good at making talismans and arrays, the West Wu Kingdom was good at refining weapons, and the North Xian Kingdom was good at beast taming. Originally, the East Phoenix Kingdom was good at refining pills. However, for some unknown reason, the rumors spread and stopped spreading. It had been hundreds of years since there had been a particularly powerful alchemist, so it was inevitable that they would end up in last place. Prime Minister Sima and the other ministers stole a glance at Empress Jio's expression. They originally thought that after she heard it, she would either be worried or embarrassed. However, why did she have an indifferent expression on her face? There's nothing bad about being 4th. After all, it's still within the top 5, isn't it? All right, you guys prepare as you should. I don't care about these illusory things. As long as we have money and combat strength, it's fine. If anyone dares to make fun of our East Phoenix Kingdom, I will make them regret being born in this world. Hei Shinjio leaned back on the dragon chair. Her expression was indifferent, but the coldness in her words did not diminish in the slightest. The civil and military officials were all dumbfounded. "Your Majesty, is it really good for you to be so arrogant?" Why did it feel like their female emperor was more like a bandit leader than an emperor? Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly lit up. She said, "Oh right, Prime Minister Sima, this is after all my first time appearing in front of the other 3 kingdoms. I must make it a little more grand. Make it as dazzling as possible for me. Anyway, our national treasury has plenty of spirit stones, so don't be afraid of spending money. Do you hear me?" What else could Prime Minister Sima say? He naturally nodded in agreement. His heart was pounding. Make it as dazzling as possible? What did he mean by this? Fortunately, Prime Minister Sima did not understand and asked. In the next few days, he would often meet Empress Jio to seek her opinion. Every time he came out, his expression was very interesting. Would this work? Their Empress aesthetic standards were really different from others. A month later, in the Bloodstream Valley. The geographical location of the Bloodstream Valley was very special. It happened to be located in the center of the 4 countries and belonged to a place that the 4 countries did not care about. That was why the 4 countries' grand meeting had chosen this place as the venue. This way, they were not afraid of any country playing any tricks. This year, it happened to be the South Dragon Kingdom's turn to host the 4 kingdoms' grand meeting. Therefore, The people of the South Dragon Kingdom had entered the Bloodstream Valley in advance and had already set up the competition stage and grandstand. The merchants of the East Phoenix Kingdom had been hinted by their Empress Geo, and they all eagerly occupied the advantageous positions. There were all kinds of snack stalls, equipment stalls, elixir stalls, and so on. The Four Kingdoms Grand Meeting would be held for at least 3 days, and the people of the Four Kingdoms swarmed over. This was a great opportunity to make money. Emperor Nanxian was the first to arrive at the venue. When he saw those popular stalls, he thought that they were merchants of the South Dragon Kingdom, and he could not help but feel very satisfied. Who said that the people of the South Dragon Kingdom were not as good at doing business as the people of the East Phone Kingdom? Wasn't this quite clever? However, he soon knew that the stalls that occupied the advantageous positions were all from the East Phoenix Kingdom. The stalls of the Southern Dragon Kingdom were all in the corners. Moreover, because the goods were not attractive, almost no one patronized them. Emperor Nanxian snorted coldly. The East Phoenix Kingdom could only engage in some opportunistic business. This time, at the Grand Meeting of the Four Kingdoms, he would let that so-called female emperor know her capabilities. Don't think that the East Phoenix Kingdom was really amazing. A fourth-ranked country still had the nerve to show off. Emperor Nanxian consoled himself for a while before sitting down in the VIP area. Soon, Emperor Beijing of the Beixian Kingdom and Emperor Shiwen of the Shiwu Kingdom also arrived with their teams. Although the relationship between the three countries was difficult to explain in a word, it was still passable on the surface. They greeted each other and took their seats. They couldn't just sit there and do nothing, so they started chatting casually. Perhaps it was because there had been a lot of troubles in the country recently, so the three of them had a feeling that they shared the same fate. When they saw those merchants from East Phoenix Country who had earned a lot of money, the three of them felt a little resentful of the rich. They all had the same thought in their hearts. This time, the Four Nations Grand Meeting would definitely firmly place East Phoenix Country in fourth place. It was to prevent East Phoenix Country from truly becoming the sole power. Because of the temporary benefits, the smiles on the faces of the three emperors became much more sincere. They temporarily threw all the previous unhappiness to the back of their minds. After chatting for a while, Emperor Shiwen said in puzzlement, "It's almost time. Why hasn't the Eastern Phoenix Country's female emperor arrived yet?" Emperor Nanxian pursed his lips. No matter what, she's still a little girl. Naturally, she's a little thin-skinned. She came in fourth. I guess she's a little scared. Emperor Beijing echoed, "You're right. Ever since Yun Fengjin went missing, the East Phoenix Kingdom has always been in fourth place. Moreover, her points are pitifully low. Naturally, she doesn't want to come and embarrass herself." Emperor Shiwen laughed. "She has to come even if she doesn't want to. After all, she is the emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom. This little girl is good at doing business, but running a country is not like doing business. This time, let's show her what she is capable of." While the three of them were mocking each other, they heard the sound of drums in the distance. The drumbeats were so excited that the surrounding crowd couldn't help but make way for them. The three of them looked up and saw several flags fluttering in the wind. On each flag, there were large golden words. Female Emperor of Zephyr's beauty is unparalleled in the world. Female Emperor of Zephyr's beauty is like a fish in water, like a swan in the lake, like a swan in the moon, like a flower in shame. Female Emperor of Zephyr's beauty is invincible. Regardless of whether it was the three emperors or the surrounding crowd, only 3 words flashed through their minds: shameless. This Empress Fenghua was too shameless. Was it really good to brag so much? The faces of the people of the East Phone Kingdom were also a little stiff. "Your Majesty, can we not be so smug? This seemed to be a little too much, right?" Very soon, everyone knew that there was no such thing as the most excessive, only more excessive. The soldiers holding the flags stood on both sides and separated the crowd. Only then did the crowd realize that there was an extremely luxurious sedan chair behind the soldiers. Emperor Nanxian looked at the beaded curtain hanging down in front of the palanquin and could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Wasn't this the shimmering muscle pearl? In the world, one could only buy one pearl for 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. This little girl actually used it to make a beaded curtain? Not to mention other things, this beaded curtain was worth over 100 million. What a waste! At this time, a palace maid came forward and spread the pure white ground-shaking snow cashmere all the way to the VIP area. Emperor Nanxian and the other two were dumbstruck. Although this ground-shaking snow cashmere was not as precious as the shimmering clam pearl, it should at least cost millions of high-grade spirit stones, right? Just like that? That little girl's feet were that precious? Just as the three of them were cursing in their hearts, they saw the guards and palace maids kneeling on the ground with a plop. They shouted loudly, "Welcome, Your Majesty." Your Majesty's country-toppling and city-toppling magnificence is unparalleled in the world. The unanimous shouts shocked everyone. Some merchants and onlookers of the East Phoenix Kingdom could not help but kneel on the ground. Even if they did not want to kneel, under the influence of this atmosphere, their legs could not help but feel a little weak. They had an impulse to submit and worship. Not to mention the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom, even the subjects of the other three kingdoms also kneeled on the ground in confusion. It seemed that under this situation, it was a great act of treason to stand. Emperor Nanxian and the other two saw that nearly half of the people had knelt down, and they were so angry that they were twitching. Even if they used their toes to think, it was impossible for all of them to be from the East Feng Kingdom. There must be people from the three kingdoms. Were these people crazy? They actually knelt down to worship that last from the East Feng Kingdom. It was really infuriating. While the three of them were angry, they looked at the palanquin. They wanted to see just what kind of virtue the female emperor of Zephyr had to actually make so many people submit to her. A palace maid first opened the beaded curtain and then lifted a layer of gauze curtain. Empress Jiao, who was dressed in red, stepped down from the palanquin. Everyone's gaze was focused on Yun Chujiao, who was dressed in red. The woman was extremely beautiful, but as she stood there, everything seemed to pale in comparison. She was dressed in red, and she had a peerless aura. The woman's clear voice carried a hint of laziness. "All of you get up." The crowd was probably stunned by the aura around the woman, but no one got up. They just knelt and watched as the woman walked step by step towards the VIP area. The lattice bearing was indescribably reserved and noble. It was a natural nobility that made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Yun Chujiao slowly walked to the VIP area and looked at the dumbstruck Emperor Nanxian and the other two. Emperor Nanxian and the other two subconsciously stood up. Empress Jiao smiled faintly and said, "The three of you are too polite. Have a seat." Only then did Emperor Nanxian and the other two men come to their senses. What the hell was wrong with them just now? Why did they stand up? Now, it seemed that they were inferior to others. They were already so old, but they were actually suppressed by the imposing manner of a little girl. It was really embarrassing. Emperor Nanxian said dryly, "We are guests from afar. This time, our South Dragon Kingdom is hosting the Four Kingdoms Grand Meeting. It's only right to be polite." Emperor Shiwen and Emperor Beijing were furious. "You actually found a good excuse. What did they say? Could it be that they couldn't help but stand up as they watched?" The two of them sat down embarrassedly. They had a strong feeling in their hearts. This little girl must be deliberately giving them a show of strength. What wishful thinking! Humph, this was just spending money to gain face. Let's meet on the competition stage. After Empress Jiao sat down, she saw that there were still many kneeling people below. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. "Everyone, please rise. Everyone, don't worry. This Four Nations Grand Meeting will definitely be a grand meeting of unity. A wonderful grand meeting. It will definitely make everyone's trip worthwhile." As soon as Yun Chujiao finished speaking, some people started clapping. With someone taking the lead, the rest naturally clapped as well. For a moment, the applause was thunderous. During the applause, there were also some people shouting fervently, "Female Emperor of Zephyr, unparalleled in the world. Female Emperor of Zephyr, unparalleled in martial arts. Female Emperor of Zephyr, devastatingly beautiful." Emperor Nanxian was so angry. The words that the little girl said were originally his lines, okay? Their South Dragon Kingdom was the host country of this four-nation grand meeting, okay? How could you be so shameless? Before Emperor Nanxian could catch his breath, he saw Yun Chujio wave her hand to signal for everyone to be quiet. Then she said, Your Majesty Nanxian, we can begin now. Emperor Nanxian was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. In this way, wouldn't it make people feel that he had to listen to this little girl? But what could he do? Could it be that he publicly accused Yun Chujio of stealing his lines? Emperor Nanxian took a deep breath and said, As everyone knows, the ranking of the East Feng Kingdom is always lower. I wonder what ranking Your Majesty Fenghua is planning to get this time? Empress Jiao smiled brightly. Ranking is not important. The important thing is to participate. Our East Feng Kingdom has always adhered to the principle of friendship first and competition second. A chance for the people of the four countries to get to know each other is more important than anything else. Emperor Nanxian was almost angered by her words. This girl was really sharp-tongued. Now that she had said it, it made him seem petty. However, Emperor Nanxian was after all the ruler of a kingdom, so he was naturally not easy to get along with. He said with a fake smile, Your Majesty Fenghua, although that's the case, what we cultivators strive for is a sense of sharpness. This is Your Majesty Fenghua's first time participating in the grand meeting of the four nations. I hope that the results of the East Phoenix country will not be too ugly. Upon hearing Emperor Nanxian's words, the faces of the people from the East Phoenix Kingdom became a little embarrassed. This four nations grand meeting was like a scar on their hearts. Once it was opened, it would be covered in blood. Every time they dealt with the people from the other three kingdoms, when the other party was at the end of their words, they would use the four nations grand meeting as an excuse. Unfortunately, their East Phoenix Kingdom didn't live up to their expectations. Every time they would always get the last place. It was simply too embarrassing. To be honest, they did not have much hope this time. After all, their female emperor had just ascended the throne not long ago. It was impossible for her to change the current situation. The other three nations all had their own trump cards. Only their East Phoenix nation did not have any shit. Originally, when War God Yun was around, the spirit power competition could still save some face. But now, they could only watch helplessly as the other three nations crushed their East Phoenix nation. Seeing that Yun Chujio did not speak immediately, Emperor Nanxian could not help but feel proud in his heart. A little girl, did she really think that she was amazing? Right at this moment, Yun Chujio laughed lightly. Your Majesty Nanxian must be joking. No matter how ugly the result is, it's only fourth place. How ugly can it be? Can it still make us fall to fifth place? Therefore, Your Majesty Nanxian doesn't need to worry about our East Phoenix country. When you have time, you'd better take care of your harem. Emperor Nanxian's old face turned green with anger. One should never hit a person in the face, and one should never talk about a person's shortcomings. This damn brat was simply mentioning the pot that was boiling. His concubine had gotten together with the spies of the Shiwu Kingdom. It was simply a humiliation that Emperor Nanxian would never be able to wash off in his lifetime. Now that He Xinjiao had said it in front of everyone, Emperor Nanxian wished he could find a hole to hide in. The people of the East Phoenix Kingdom felt extremely happy. Their empress had said it beautifully. She said it so straightforwardly. To an old and shameless person like Emperor Nanxian, they should just kill him. Emperor Shiwen felt very guilty. He was afraid that Emperor Nanxian would find trouble with him, so he quickly smoothed things over and said, Your Majesty Nanxian, the time is almost up. Let's start the first round. Emperor Nanxian glared at him fiercely, but he still took the opportunity to say, The four nations grand meeting has officially begun. The host will announce the content of the competition. Following Emperor Nanxian's words, a middle-aged man jumped onto the stage and said a few words. Then he said, The first round of the competition is an artifact refining competition. Each nation can only choose 3 participants. In the end, the corresponding points will be awarded according to the ranking. Now, let's invite the participants from each nation to come up to the stage. The participants from the 4 countries stepped onto the stage one after another. The host continued, "Later on, you will be given the same materials. The time limit is 6 hours. You can perform as you wish. Finally, you will be ranked according to the grade and level of the refined spiritual artifacts. Now, the competition begins." Very soon, the participants began to knock and hammer. At first, Empress Gio was still pretending to be noble. Later on, she simply leaned back on the chair and lazily closed her eyes to rest. Prime Minister Sima was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. "Your Majesty, this is not the throne room of our East Phoenix country. What do you think of your behavior? Don't you feel embarrassed?" He wanted to remind Empress Gio, but he was afraid that it would be too obvious, so he coughed a few times. Unfortunately, Empress Gio was still the same as before, as if she didn't hear him. Prime Minister Sima had no choice but to increase the volume of his coughing. Pitifully, Empress Gio finally straightened her body and turned her head to Emperor Nanxian. "Your Majesty Nanxian, since your southern dragon country is the host country, there should at least be some tea, spirit fruits, and pastries in the VIP area, right? Didn't you hear our Prime Minister Sima coughing from his thirst? You guys are too stingy." Prime Minister Sima, it was better to let him die first. Emperor Nanxian was dumbfounded. This was not a banquet. Everyone was here to watch the competition. What kind of tea, cakes, and spiritual fruits were provided? As a cultivator, who didn't bring water and food with them when they went out? If they were thirsty, wouldn't they drink water by themselves? Would they have to depend on the Southern Dragon Kingdom? Shameless. Besides, which year's 4 Kingdoms banquet didn't have anyone prepare these things? Yun Chujio saw that Emperor Nanxian was in a daze and didn't say anything. She said lazily, "It seems that Emperor Nanxian didn't prepare it. But fortunately, I have already asked people to prepare it. Our East Phoenix Kingdom has always been generous. This time, our East Phoenix Kingdom will sponsor the tea, spirit fruits, and pastries for free." Yun Chujio clapped her hands as she spoke. She saw Yun Jichen walk over from the crowd with a conflicted look on his face. He even brought a few palace maids behind him and placed a pot of spirit tea on each table in the VIP area. Yun Jichen cleared his throat and used his spirit energy to say loudly, "Taste the white spirit tea and let your spirit energy grow." While everyone was stunned, another palace maid served a plate of dried fruits to everyone. Yun Jichen said loudly, "Eat the 1,000 herbs dried fruit. It's good for your appearance and beauty." As the palace maids continued to serve the food, Yun Jichen continued to say, "The East Phoenix spirit fruit is a delicacy in the world. 1 will be your appetizer, and 2 won't be sore after you eat it. Chen's pastry tastes good, and its reputation is well known throughout the world." In the end, Yun Jichen continued, "Thank you for the support of the White Tea House of East Phoenix Country, 1,000 Herbs Dried Fruit, Chen's Pastry Shop, Chien Duo Restaurant. All of the above shops have stalls in the venue. Everyone can go and buy them to ensure that the quality is good, the price is low, and the service is considerate." Prime Minister Sima was stunned. Holy shit! How did their emperor's brain grow? Wasn't the amount of publicity going to be unprecedented? With this kind of publicity for the 4 nations grand meeting, wouldn't the business of those shops become extremely hot in the future? Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 felt as if their hearts were going to explode. This girl was really too crafty. She was simply taking advantage of every opportunity. In such a short amount of time, she had already publicized the shops in Dongfeng Kingdom. If they had known this would happen, they would have done the same thing. They really regretted it. "Pan, de end 0, v.e1 Empress Jiao said with a smile, "Your Majesties, these are all specialties of our East Phoenix country. Don't stand on ceremony. Try them." Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 didn't have the mood to try them. Their hearts were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Fortunately, they had found a trace of balance on the competition stage. From the progress of the 12 contestants on the stage, it was obvious that the 3 contestants from the East Feng Kingdom were lagging behind. They were definitely in the bottom 3. Emperor Nanxian was clearly not bothered by the taste of the fish. He said with schadenfreude, "Your Majesty Fenghua, the situation of the contestants from your East Feng Kingdom doesn't look too good." Yun Chujiu glanced at the situation on the stage and said indifferently, "Don't worry. The results of our East Feng Kingdom have always been very stable." Emperor Nanxian, wasn't it very stable? It had always been the last place. This little girl's skin was too thick. Emperor Nanxian had obviously never seen such a shameless person. He didn't know what to say to hit her. She didn't care about the results at all, so what were you talking about? Emperor Nanxian looked at Emperor Shiwen and Emperor Beijing. The two of them were also quite helpless. They really had no way to deal with such a dead pig who wasn't afraid of boiling water. When the sun was about to set, the weapon refining competition ended. The result was similar to what everyone had expected. The West Martial Kingdom had the best results, while the South Dragon Kingdom and the North Xian Kingdom had similar results. Only the East Phoenix Kingdom had secured the last 3 places. The expression on Emperor Zaiwen's face immediately turned smug. He smiled and cupped his fists at the other 3 people. "I admit that our Shiwu Kingdom has always been good at refining artifacts. That's why we won by a fluke." Although Emperor Zaiwen's words were very polite, his expression was very smug. Although Emperor Nanxian and Emperor Beijing didn't feel very comfortable, they felt much better when they thought of Empress Jiao, who was at the bottom. They hypocritically exchanged a few polite words. Empress Jiao stood up lazily and said, "Is today's competition over? If there's nothing else, I'll go back to the temporary residence to rest." Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were speechless. Temporary residence? Since when did the Bloodstream Valley have a temporary residence of the East Phoenix Kingdom? How come they didn't know about it? This was the territory shared by the 4 kingdoms. How could the East Phoenix Kingdom establish a temporary residence? Thinking of this, the 3 men's faces immediately darkened. "Your Majesty Fenghua, this Blood Creek Valley is the territory shared by the 4 nations. Has your East Phoenix Kingdom obtained the permission of our 3 nations to build a temporary palace?" Pan, Tian 0 VE1, C. M. Yun Chujio looked at the 3 men as if she was looking at an idiot. "Don't you understand what a temporary palace means? A temporary palace is a palace that can be moved at any time. When the 4 nations' grand meeting is over, my temporary palace will naturally be moved away. Why are you all so nervous?" "But that's true. You might not have seen such a high-class thing. Let's go. I will show you around." A temporary palace is a palace that can be moved at any time? Are you trying to trick them into being uncultured? Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were confused. Driven by curiosity, they followed Empress Jiao and left the VIP area. A palace maid had already laid the ground-shaking snow cashmere carpet. Empress Jiao stepped on the carpet and got on the sedan chair with an ethereal appearance. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 didn't know whether to step on it or ignore it. He Xinjia's palanquin had already left. The 3 of them had no choice but to step on the carpet and chase after her. After a few steps, they finally realized that they had been fooled by that girl again. That girl was sitting in the palanquin in front of them, and the 3 of them were chasing after her foolishly. Wouldn't their status be revealed all of a sudden? How outrageous! Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 gritted their teeth in anger. They each brought their own people back to their respective encampments and decided to check out the Dongfeng Kingdom's temporary residence after dinner. After dinner, Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 brought their guards to the Dongfeng Kingdom's encampments. When they saw the so-called temporary residence in front of them, Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were so angry that their noses almost went crooked. They saw a big tent standing there with a sign hanging on it. There were 2 big words written on it: temporary residence. Would you die if you didn't act cool? How could a broken tent be called a temporary residence? Shameless. However, the 3 of them were already here. Naturally, they couldn't go back just like that, so they could only enter the tent. Empress Jiao was very enthusiastic. She asked someone to prepare tea, cakes, and the like. She said with a smile, "Your Majesties, my temporary residence is not bad, right?" The corners of Emperor Nanxian's eyes twitched, but they didn't say anything. Yun Chujio didn't care and said with a smile, I just ascended the throne, so the national treasury is empty, so I can only be thrifty. Emperor Nanxian and the other two almost vomited. You are thrifty? You are thrifty, but you use the shimmering clam beads as the curtain of the carriage? You are thrifty, but you use the ground-shaking snow cashmere as a carpet? The four of them said a few words without embarrassment, and then Yun Chujio changed the topic. You three, you may also know that I am the messenger of the divine phoenix. I wonder if the three divine beasts in the country have chosen an emissary? Emperor Nanxian and the other two did not expect Yun Chujio to ask this question, and they were momentarily stunned. The divine beasts of their three countries naturally did not select any divine beast envoys, and they did not have the honor to see the phantom of the divine beast. Yun Chujio continued, I wonder how the three national advisors of our country conduct themselves? Our national advisors of the East Phoenix country are quite amiable. When it came to imperial advisors, the expressions on Emperor Nanxian and the other two did not look too good. Yun Chujio had long since understood that compared to the imperial advisors of the East Phoenix Kingdom, the imperial advisors of the other three kingdoms were much more arrogant and despotic. Although they would not interfere in the affairs of the kingdom, they would still be forced to eat and drink. Some of them even had to choose beautiful girls to accompany them. It is hard for us to judge the character of the imperial advisors. Emperor Fenghua, I heard that you have lived in the immortal Yuan continent since you were young. No wonder you value business so much. Emperor Nanxian was obviously unwilling to talk about the imperial preceptor. The imperial preceptor was sent by the Li Hen Palace. Unless they did not want to be the emperor, they would only offend the imperial preceptor. The subtext of Emperor Nanxian's last few sentences was obvious. He was mocking Yun Chujio for being greedy. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio would lightly smile? Your Majesty, Nanxian is right. My greatest strength is my greed for money. Perhaps the divine phoenix likes this about me, that's why she chose me to be the divine phoenix envoy. The corners of Emperor Nanxian's and Yun Chujio's eyes fiercely twitched. Damn it, the divine phoenix was not a pai xiu. How could it choose you just because you were greedy for money? What a load of nonsense. The four of them chatted dryly for a while more. Before they parted, Yun Chujio faintly said, The three of you, how can you allow others to sleep on the side of your bed? You still have to be on guard against what you should be on guard against. That's all I have to say. The three of you, please reconsider. Emperor Nanxian and the other two were taken aback. They were not fools, so they naturally knew that Yun Chujio was referring to the Li Hate Palace. They naturally knew that the Li Hate Palace was using them as puppets, but what could they do? Not to mention them, even if the four countries were tied together, the Li Hate Palace could crush them to death with a single finger. Perhaps he felt that Yun Chujio's words were sincere, but Emperor Nanxian rarely advised her, Your Majesty Fenghua, not to mention our low-grade small countries, even high-grade countries do not dare to be enemies with the Li Hate Palace. I advise you to give up on this idea. Yun Chujio revealed a brilliant smile. Thank you for your good intentions, Emperor Nanxian. There is nothing impossible in this world. If you are too cautious and do not take the first step, you will forever be under the control of others. Emperor Nanxian and the other two were truly shocked by Yun Chujio's smile and words. It seemed that they had underestimated this little girl. This little girl's ambition was definitely not limited to the four kingdoms. Could it be that she really wanted to be enemies with the Li Hen Palace? Was she crazy? After the three of them walked for a distance, they looked at each other. Emperor Shiwen lowered his voice and said, That little girl won't be so bold as to really make an enemy of the Li Hen Palace, right? Emperor Nanxian asked suspiciously, That little girl is as smart as a monkey. She won't do such a stupid thing, right? Emperor Beijing frowned. Could that little girl be trying to trick us and then report us to the Li Hen Palace? The three of them looked at each other, and the more they thought about it, the more they felt that this was the case. Damn it. That girl was too evil. She could even think of such an evil method? Fortunately, they didn't fall for it. It was better to be careful when dealing with this girl in the future. Yun Chujio was naturally not trying to trick them. A person without foresight would have immediate worries. An existence like the Palace of Hatred was like a sharp sword hanging above one's head. Although everything was peaceful now and there was a chance that they would attack at any time, it was still better to be prepared. Yun Chujio was not surprised by the attitude of Emperor Nanxian and the other two. After all, the Palace of Hatred had used the imperial preceptor to control the four kingdoms for so long. Whether it was brainwashing or deterrence, in short, these people did not dare to easily think of going against the Palace of Hatred. Unless they were forced into a desperate situation, they would not be able to put up a fight. The four kingdoms were just a drop in the ocean of the towering continent. Moreover, they were at the bottom of the food chain. Above them were middle-grade and upper-grade kingdoms. Then there was the existence of the Hateful Palace. It was no wonder that they were so afraid of the Hateful Palace. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio became even more suspicious of what Xue Wuji had told her back then. The Yun family was far from being as powerful as he had said. If that was the case, why did he say that the gigolo had fallen into danger several times because he wanted to find out Yi Lan's whereabouts? That was not right. Xue Wuji's original words seemed to be saying that the gigolo had fallen into danger several times in order to find out her father and mother's whereabouts. Could it be that the gigolo knew her father's whereabouts? That's right. Xue Wuji also said that the gigolo had forcibly broken through a layer of seal in order to find the pill that would make her grow bigger. That was how his old illness was triggered. Where did he get that pill from? The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more she felt that Xue Wuji was hiding a lot of things from her. However, she could roughly guess Xue Wuji's motive. He was probably afraid that she was not strong enough to provoke certain forces. Yun Chujio thought about debeiming and pondered for a while about the competition the next day. That was why she did not sleep well that night. She only fell asleep in a daze when it was almost dawn. Yun Jichen and Prime Minister Sima stood outside the palace. The two of them looked at the rising sun. The two of them looked at each other. Should they wake their empress up? It was said that their female emperor of Zephyr was extremely angry when she woke up. However, the competition was about to begin the next day. If she did not attend, wouldn't the other three kingdoms think that their East Phoenix Kingdom had lost because of yesterday's armament refining competition, so they didn't dare to show their faces? In the end, it was still Yun Jichen who gritted his teeth and shouted, "Your Majesty, it's getting late. It's time for you to attend the grand meeting." Yun Chujio's lazy voice came from inside the tent. "It's good that you guys are attending. I'll catch up on my sleep and come over in the afternoon." Yun Jichen, Prime Minister Sima. "Your Majesty, is it really all right for you to be so willful? Did you come all the way here just to catch up on sleep?" For cultivators, it was not a big deal even if they did not sleep for 3 days, let alone one night. Although the two of them were complaining in their hearts, they did not dare to disobey. They could only leave half of their men to protect Yun Chujio while they brought the rest of their men to the venue of the Four Nations Grand Meeting. Emperor Nanxian and the other two were stretching their necks and waiting for Yun Chujio's arrival. They felt that they had been tricked by Yun Chujio yesterday, so they planned to give Yun Chujio some face today. Pan, the end is 0, v. E won the competition this morning was to compete in alchemy. This was originally the strength of the East Phoenix Kingdom, but the alchemy skills of the East Phoenix Kingdom were getting worse and worse year by year. Now, they had completely fallen into the bottom tier. The three of them had already decided that when the time came, they would mock and ridicule Yun Chujio. Who would have thought that after stretching their necks for a long time, the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom still did not come? Could it be that they were too scared to come? Just as the three of them were thinking about it, they saw Yun Jichen and Prime Minister Sima bringing a group of officials from the East Phoenix Kingdom, but there was no sign of that girl. Emperor Nanxian asked disdainfully, "Why? Is your Emperor Fenghua afraid of losing again today, so she doesn't dare to come?" "Your Majesties, my Emperor has some urgent matters to take care of at the last minute. He will probably be here in the afternoon," Prime Minister Sima said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He thought to himself, their Emperor's skin was thicker than the city walls. Why would she be afraid of losing face? She was catching up on her sleep. Emperor Nanxian and the other two exchanged a look, saying that they were not afraid of losing. The competition in the morning was pill refinement, and the competition in the afternoon was array formation. She was trying to avoid the pill refinement competition. It was simply like there was no silver in this place. However, it did not matter. Anyway, when she came in the afternoon, they could still ridicule her. Moreover, as the Emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom, she actually didn't even dare to show her face. This was simply a disgrace to Her Excellency. This lass appeared to be quite smart, but in reality, her cleverness was actually mistaken by her cleverness. As expected, when the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom saw that their glorious female emperor actually hid like a cowardly tortoise, they instantly felt disgraced. Even those who were doing business seemed to have no energy to shout. Prime Minister Sima and Yun Jichen looked at each other and smiled bitterly. "Your Majesty, you can really be a demon. Why are you taking a nap all of a sudden?" When the host saw that everyone from the 4 countries had arrived, he jumped onto the stage and said, "The second round of the competition is a pill refining competition. Each country can only choose 3 participants. In the end, the corresponding points will be given according to the ranking. Now, the participants from each country will be invited onto the stage." When Prime Minister Sima saw the participants from East Phoenix, his body stiffened, and a hint of shock appeared in his eyes. Yun Jichen, who was sitting beside him, lowered his voice and asked, "Prime Minister, is there a problem?" Prime Minister Sima opened the isolation array and said in a low voice, "Our country's participants are clearly 3 old men. They were all carefully selected by me. How did one of them suddenly become a little girl?" Yun Jichen looked up and saw that among the 3 people wearing the East Phoenix country's contestant attire, there was indeed an ordinary-looking little girl. Her spiritual power level was at the 3rd layer of the spirit illusion realm. It could be said that her aptitude was mediocre. Yun Jichen frowned. Could it be that this little girl is the disciple or granddaughter of the old man from before? Perhaps something happened to the old man and that's why she temporarily replaced him? Prime Minister Sima thought for a moment. It was very likely that this was the case. He couldn't help but say angrily, "How outrageous! If Dr. Yu has something to say, he can simply inform me. I'll send someone else." But now, no matter how good this little girl's appearance was, she was at most a level 13 alchemist. This time, the minimum content of the competition would be level 20 medicinal pills. Isn't this just fooling around? I'll send someone to explain the situation. Send someone else up. Yun Jichen shook his head. "Prime Minister, now that the contestants have stepped onto the stage, if you say so, the people from the other 3 nations will definitely take the opportunity to mock us. Moreover, even if you send someone else up, the final result will still be in the last place. Since that's the case, just accept your mistake." Prime Minister Sima thought that what Yun Jichen said made sense. Since they were going to lose anyway, it would be better to just let it be. No wonder their Emperor Fenghua did not come. It could be imagined that after the pill refining competition ended, the other 3 nations would be filled with ridicule and complacency. Just thinking about it made him feel stifled. When Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 saw that the East Phoenix country had actually sent a little girl up onto the stage, the 3 of them curled their lips. It seemed that the East Phoenix country had broken all the rules. Had they sent such a little girl up to find an excuse for failure? How foolish! When the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom saw that little girl, their hearts instantly turned cold. It was over. Not only had their Emperor Fenghua not come, but now he had actually sent a little girl to compete. Was he giving up completely? Not to mention getting a good ranking, this little girl probably wouldn't even be able to complete the questions, right? Which idiot had chosen this person? Wasn't this obviously going up to embarrass themselves? The people from the other 3 nations were also discussing animatedly. "TSKSK, I think that the East Phoenix country is really getting worse and worse. At the very least, the contestants that were sent up earlier were still acting as if they were the real deal, but this time, they actually sent a little girl. Exactly, I think that they've broken all the rules. Sending a little girl up, even if they lose, it can be considered an excuse. How shameless! That's right, besides knowing how to do business, the East Feng Kingdom doesn't know anything else. Moreover, that female emperor of the Zephyr Nation is obviously someone who can harm money. Sooner or later, the East Feng Kingdom will be finished. When the people of the East Feng Kingdom heard the discussions of these people, they were both angry and angry. However, they couldn't defeat the other party in a 1-on-3 fight, so they could only vent their anger on that ordinary-looking little girl. Don't you know your own level? Don't you know your own level? If I ask you to go up, do you go up? Don't you know that the moment you go up, you will represent the East Phoenix Kingdom? Not to mention the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom, even the other two contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom had dumbfounded expressions on their faces. They were clearly Dr. Yu of the 100 Herb Hall previously, but how did she become this little girl? Could she be an imposter? However, after thinking about it, it was impossible for her to be an imposter. If she was an imposter, firstly, there wouldn't be this set of clothes. Secondly, all the contestants had their own people to protect them. It was also impossible for her to secretly harm the physicians. Moreover, even if the physicians went on stage, they would at most be slightly stronger than them. In the end, they would still be in the bottom 3. There was no need for this little girl to harm the physicians. Just as the two of them were puzzled, the host announced the countries and names of the contestants one by one. Qiu Anbang of the South Dragon Kingdom, Zhai Wenxiong. The East Phoenix Kingdom wins all of them. Emperor Nan Xian, Emperor Shiwen, Emperor Beijing, everyone. Was this host sick? The competition hadn't even started yet. How did the East Phoenix Kingdom win all of them? The host clearly felt that his words were easily misunderstood, so he hurriedly explained, "Everyone, don't misunderstand. This female contestant's name is Allwin, so together, it means that East Phoenix Country wins all of them." What the hell? Allwin? Wasn't this name too fucking confident? Yun Jichen and Prime Minister Sima looked at each other, and Yun Jichen said, "Could it be because of this name that Dr. Yu allowed her to replace him? Isn't this too absurd?" Prime Minister Sima smiled bitterly. No matter what the reason was, this Allwin was a stunning feat. It was estimated that from today onwards, this name would become the laughingstock of the 4 nations. Among the 12 contestants on the stage, other than all of them who had won, all of them were elderly people. Everyone looked at her with disdain and contempt. Was this Allwin a joke? The host continued, "The content of today's alchemy competition is to refine a level 22 8 transformation life creation pill. The time limit is 4 hours, and the final ranking will be based on the rate of completion of the pill, the quality of the pill, and the length of time used. Now, the competition begins." When Yun Jichen and Prime Minister Sima heard the content of the competition, their hearts instantly turned cold. It seemed that those who had won all could only hand in their blank papers. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom had the same thoughts as Prime Minister Sima. No matter how talented they were, they would at most be a level 13 alchemist. How could they successfully refine a level 22 rank 8 life creation pill? It was over. This time, they had lost a lot of face. Although the East Phoenix Kingdom was ranked last in the previous pill refining competition, they could at least complete the refinement. This time, the domineering name of Allwin for nothing was completely wasted. They could only hand in the blank paper. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two gloated at each other's misfortune. When that little girl arrived in the afternoon, they would definitely mock her. Their East Feng Kingdom really had no one left. They actually sent a little girl to support the scene. It was simply too embarrassing. At this time, everyone on the competition stage had already started warming up the alchemy furnace. Only that person who had won all blinked his eyes, in a daze. Prime Minister Sima was really angry. If you don't have those skills, then don't go up and embarrass yourself. But now, the pill refining period was 4 hours. She wouldn't just stand there for 4 hours, right? Even if you don't know how to refine pills, don't you know how to put on an act? At least it wouldn't be so embarrassing. Prime Minister Sima quickly realized that he was thinking too much. That person who had won all didn't just stand there in a daze. Instead, he took out a chair and leisurely sat on it to watch the show. This fellow perfectly explained what it meant to watch the show and not think that it was a big deal. He shamelessly said to himself, "Hey, contestant number 1, your alchemy furnace looks pretty good. How much did you buy it for?" Contestant number 2, your fire marrow is 100-year fire marrow, right? You're quite rich. Contestant number 3, I see that the storage ring on your hand is quite high-end. Did you buy it in our East Phoenix country's Golden Jade House? Alchemy required one to calm down and concentrate. This fellow's words immediately made everyone restless. Number 1, Chio Anbang of the South Dragon Country, shouted angrily, "All of you win." "Shut up." The little girl spread her hands innocently. "Host, judges, there isn't a rule that forbids you from speaking, right? I didn't leave my operating table and I didn't fight. Can't you just say something? Moreover, as the top experts of the 4 nations, are you not allowed to speak when refining pills? Isn't this standard a little too bad? I'm not bragging, let alone someone speaking. Even if the Earth Dragon turns over, I can still successfully refine the pills. This is the difference." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently. "You're really shameless. Let's not talk about whether your words are in accordance with the rules. With your level, you still have the nerve to say that you're better than others? Shameless." However, after some discussion among the judges, there was really no rule that forbade people from speaking. Therefore, the host said to Chio Anbang, who had raised a protest, "Speaking is not prohibited in the rules, so it's not considered a violation if you win all of them." Chio Anbang was so angry that he simply covered his ears. It was not annoying to not listen. The other contestants followed suit and also covered their ears to avoid being affected by all the wins. Although there was a difference in the strength of these 12 people, it was not to a particularly large extent. Therefore, with all of them winning and causing trouble, the gap between the 2 contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom and the others had narrowed further. Emperor Nanxian slammed the table angrily. "The East Phoenix Kingdom is too shameless. No wonder they sent a little girl up there. It turns out that they are deliberately causing trouble." Emperor Shiwen snorted coldly. "Even so, the rankings of the 2 contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom are at most at the middle level. In addition, all of them won last place. Their results combined are still at the bottom." Emperor Nanxian felt that what Emperor Shiwen said made sense. He glanced at Prime Minister Sima and the others, he sneered and said, "So, no matter how many tricks are used in front of absolute strength, they are useless. Some people, using such underhanded methods is really embarrassing." Prime Minister Sima's face was like a red cloth. He wished he could find a hole and hide in it. Where did that disaster come from? This wasn't helping their East Phoenix country, this was harming their East Phoenix country. After tormenting for a long time, even though they gained a few points, what was the use of it? Unless they could all win and enter the top 3, their East Phoenix country might not be at the bottom. However, with this fellow, let alone the top 3, they could only hand in their blank papers. It was simply too embarrassing. However, that fellow did not feel ashamed. Instead, she felt proud. She sat on the chair and watched the other contestants refine pills with a smile. She did not even take out her alchemy furnace. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 could not be bothered to ridicule her anymore. They kept their words and prepared to humiliate Empress Jio in the afternoon. When the contestants saw that all of them were no longer winning, they took out the things that were stuffed in their ears. After all, it was really awkward to be stuffed like this. Soon, 2 hours had passed. During this period of time, all of them had been very quiet. They were either in a daze or resting with their eyes closed, looking like they had broken a broken jar. At this time, the herbs of the other contestants had already turned into medicinal liquid. It was estimated that in another hour, there would be contestants who would finish refining the pills one after another. At this moment, all of them stood up, stretched, and said lazily, "Sigh, stupid birds fly first. You stupid birds have almost flown enough. It's time for me to start refining pills." Those contestants almost gasped. They had never seen such shameless people. They were stupid birds? You're clearly the stupid bird, okay? Shameless. The people below couldn't help but jeer. Where did all of them come from? With such thick skin, it was simply unprecedented and unprecedented. She was going to start refining pills? Refining the 8 transformation life creation pill? Don't joke around. She was probably just randomly refining it. This way, when the competition ended, there would at least be some medicinal juice in her pill refining furnace. However, looking at her current state, it wasn't certain that the furnace would explode. When everyone saw the pill refining furnaces that all of them had taken out, they were even more dumbfounded. They saw that the pill refining furnace was actually only a middle-grade spirit tool with a few vegetable leaves hanging on it. That little girl rinsed it with water and then began to stuff medicinal herbs into it. Prime Minister Sima almost vomited blood from anger. Could it be that he didn't know how to refine pills at all? He had never heard of stuffing medicinal herbs into it without warming up. Also, could you explain why there were vegetable leaves in the raw alchemy furnace? This was an alchemy furnace, not a wok. Prime Minister Sima consoled himself. No matter what, it seemed that the proportion of medicinal herbs that were all won and released was correct. Although the refinement was not successful, at least it showed that she knew the formula for the 8th transformation life creation pill. This was not too embarrassing. Prime Minister Sima wanted to cry. His requirements had already been lowered to this extent. Please don't cause any more trouble if you all win. However, very quickly, Prime Minister Sima was so angry that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. She actually lifted the lid of the pill refining furnace and added a purple kite grass into it. She was seeking death by playing tricks. Didn't she know that lifting the lid of the alchemy furnace during the alchemy process was a big taboo? Alwyn? She should change her name to Alwyn. The citizens of the 4 nations who were watching the show below also laughed out loud one after another. This Alwyn was simply a disgrace. If the eyes of the citizens of the East Phoenix Kingdom could kill people, then Alwyn would have been turned into sieves by now. The people of the East Phoenix Kingdom were simply about to die from anger. Every time their East Phoenix Kingdom was in last place, it was also a disgrace, but it had never been this shameful before. This Alwyn was simply setting a new shameful record for their East Phoenix country. If you don't know how to refine pills, then just sit there and wait for the competition to end. Why must you be so embarrassed? Do you think this is stir-frying? If it's bland, then add some salt. If it's sour, then add some sugar. This is simply nonsense. No wonder there were vegetable leaves in front of her alchemy furnace. This little girl might just be a chef. Soon, the aroma of medicinal herbs began to spread from the alchemy furnaces of the other competitors. Only the winner kept stuffing some medicinal herbs into the alchemy furnace. Everyone was too lazy to look at her. The result was obvious anyway. She could do whatever she wanted to do. After a while, Qiu Anbang of the Nanshan Kingdom raised his hand to signal, "I've completed the refinement." Xiao Yuan from Beixian also raised his hand and said, "I'm done too." At this moment, everyone raised their paws and said, "Host, I'm done too. Remember, I'm in 3rd place." Everyone, did you really think that you could come in 3rd just because you said you were in 3rd place? Shameless. There was definitely a ball of medicinal liquid in her alchemy furnace. Perhaps there wasn't even any medicinal liquid in it. How could she say that she was done? The host didn't say anything and recorded it truthfully. Then, the other contestants completed the competition one after another. Now, it was the most exciting moment. The judges began to judge the final results of the contestants according to their participating numbers. The judges first went to the front of Qiu Anbang's operating table and opened the lid of the alchemy furnace. When they saw the medicinal pills inside, everyone nodded in admiration. Then, the host announced loudly, "The success rate of Qiu Anbang of the Southern Dragon Kingdom is 80%, 6 high-grade pills, 2 middle-grade pills, and 36 points." The spectators immediately cried out in surprise. Not only was the success rate of the pills so high, but 6 of them were high-grade pills. This was too amazing. Qiu Anbang was very proud in his heart. If not for that Alwyn troublemaker, there might have been 7 high-grade pills. But even so, The first place in the alchemy competition would belong to him. As expected, the results announced after that were not as high as Chiu Anbang's. The results of the two old men from the East Phoenix country were both in the middle range, which was considered pretty good. Now, only number 12 had won all of them. Although the judges felt that it was meaningless to watch or not to watch, they couldn't break the rules. So one of the judges casually lifted the lid of the alchemy furnace. Then, there was no then. That judge first opened his mouth wide, and then fainted with a choking sound. The spectators below immediately became excited. Emma, not good. That all-win actually turned the 8 transformation life creation pill into poison. It actually poisoned the judge. I told you she couldn't just randomly stuff medicinal herbs into it, right? Now, the pill that was supposed to save people has turned into a harmful pill. Pan, DN0V1, Sim. Prime Minister Sima's head was buzzing. It was over. Someone had died. Other contestants needed points to refine pills, but those who won all the pill refining battles were going to die. The little girl on the stage was even more dumbfounded. Fuck. Pengzi. The pill she refined was obviously a rank 8 life creation pill. Why did this referee faint at a glance? It must be Pengzi. Shameless. The other referees couldn't be bothered to look at the pill furnaces that had all won. They surrounded the referee and gave him a round of treatment. The other 2 contestants from the East Phoenix Kingdom looked on speechlessly as they watched all of them win. One after another, they sighed. This all-win was probably for a good reason. They wanted to give them a helping hand. However, no matter how much they messed around, they could not refine a poison to harm others. However, that was also true. They reckoned that she had just randomly refined it. They reckoned that she did not even know what the heck she had refined. The 2 contestants from the East Phoenix country were slightly better off, but the contestants from the other 3 countries had gloating expressions on their faces. Chiu Anbang's face was filled with indignation as he angrily rebuked, "You've won all of them. You're really morally corrupt. How can a human life be a child's play? If you don't know how to refine pills, then don't come up and harm others and yourself. Now that you've poisoned the referee to the point of fainting, what crime should you commit?" All of them had been fuming in their hearts due to being blackmailed. When they heard what he said, they were instantly enraged. Which fucking eye of yours saw that I refined a poison? If you don't know how to speak, then don't speak. Didn't you just refine 6 high-grade 8 transformation life creation pills? Do you really think you're that great? Pooey. I'm better than you even with my eyes closed. When refining pills, you're not allowed to let others speak. Why don't you shut everyone's mouths? You're not capable, yet you blame others. You're shameless. Now that you're slandering me, are you afraid that it'll surpass you when my results are announced later? Is that why you can't wait to smear me? How insidious. Chiu Anbang's old face flushed red from all the winning words. He was so angry that he was trembling. Good. I won't argue with you. You poisoned the referee. You will suffer in a while. Emperor Nanxian saw that all the winners were so arrogant and could not help but frown. Then he said to Prime Minister Sima, "Your East Phoenix country's contestant poisoned the referee. If that referee is fine, this matter can be reduced to a small matter. But if that referee is really in trouble, Your Majesty Fenghua must give him an explanation." Prime Minister Sima pretended to be calm and said, "Your Majesty, the matter has not been investigated clearly. It is too early to draw a conclusion. Maybe that referee has some old illness. It may not be caused by all the pills he won." Prime Minister Sima did not believe what he said. That referee was an alchemist himself. If he had an old illness, he would not have come to be the referee. Oh God, their emperor had not come for a long time and such a big mess had happened. How was he going to explain it to His Majesty? Emperor Nanxian snorted coldly. He thought that he would come to a conclusion soon anyway. Let's see how he can keep his mouth shut when the time comes. At this moment, the referee on the competition stage woke up. He first looked at the crowd surrounding him in a daze, then jumped up and pounced in front of the all-win console. The spectators' blood immediately boiled. That referee was definitely going to take revenge on all of them. There was a good show to watch. All of them subconsciously took a step back. Fuck, was this still a series of scams? The referee's face was full of excitement. He pointed at the alchemy furnace that all of them had won and said with a trembling voice, 10 high-grade pills. 10 high-grade pills. To have such results at such a young age, he is simply a genius. A genius. Everyone was stunned. What the hell was that? Why couldn't they understand what the judge was saying? What 10 high-grade pills? What genius? Could he have gone mad? The other judges looked suspiciously at the pill furnaces that had all won. Then all of them were dumbstruck. They saw that there were 10 round 8 transformation life pills inside the pill furnaces. Moreover, all of them were high-grade pills. They finally understood why that judge fainted. This all-win was so young, but he actually had such alchemy attainments. If it was given time, he would definitely be an alchemy grandmaster of a generation. When All-Win saw those judges' fierce and hungry eyes, he immediately cried out in his heart. This was already restrained. Why was it still so shocking? Wasn't this towering sky continent higher level than the immortal essence continent? Why was her alchemy level so lousy? If she had known this would happen, she would have restrained herself even more. Being too outstanding was also a burden. This fellow decided to cover it up. His face revealed an expression of fear and trepidation. Actually, I have never refined such a high-level medicinal pill. Perhaps the medicinal herbs that were randomly stuffed in took effect? When the judges heard that, they suddenly came to a realization. It must be so. They had said that no matter how talented this little girl was, it was impossible for her to be perverted to such an extent. It was likely that she had carelessly done it. They did not know how she had hit the nail on the head. Some of the judges hurriedly took out a piece of paper and pen and tried their best to recall how Yunchujio had done it before. They recorded it down in detail one by one, preparing to go back and ponder over it again. They even wrote down the vegetable leaves. They even specially asked Yunchujio what kind of vegetable leaves they were. Yunchujio looked at the host and said, "Host, shouldn't you announce my results?" The host was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. This series of twists and turns was simply more exciting than what was written in the storybook. He had originally thought that this all-win was a joke. Who would have thought that it would actually become a legend? This was really melodramatic. The host steadied his mind and announced loudly, "East Phoenix Country wins all of them, 100% pill success rate, 10 high-grade pills, 50 points." Immediately, the pot exploded. What the hell? 100% pill success rate? 10 high-grade pills? How was this possible? Don't joke around. Not to mention that little lass, even an alchemist from a middle-grade country wouldn't be able to do it, alright? However, since the host had already announced it, then it shouldn't be fake anymore. That all-win was really dog shit luck. He actually succeeded just by messing around. There was really no one else. Chiu Anbang and the other contestants gathered in front of the all-win console to watch in disbelief. When they saw the pills in the alchemy furnace and took them out to smell, their faces were instantly filled with shock. They had actually just refined them. They had lost. Prime Minister Sima's expression was simply wonderful. Disbelief, surprise, ecstasy. Then he hugged Yun Zhichen, who was beside him, and laughed loudly. Yun Zichen's heart was like a beeping dog. "Prime Minister, you're already so old, can't you be a little more reserved? Didn't you just get first place in the alchemy competition? Did you have to be so excited?" Crown Prince Yun. The heavens have eyes. Ever since the retired emperor passed away, our East Phoenix country hasn't gotten a single first place. Moreover, alchemy has always been our East Phoenix country's forte. Now that we've finally gotten first place, this is simply a joyous occasion for the entire world. No, I'll immediately go back and report the good news to His Majesty. Yun Zhichen was speechless. With great difficulty, he managed to pull back the overjoyed Prime Minister Sima. "Prime Minister Sima, calm down. Calm down." His Majesty will be here in the afternoon. You can tell her when the time comes. Prime Minister Sima thought about it and agreed. If he left, it wouldn't be good if there was no one here to hold down the fort. He could only suppress his excitement and sit down again. Then, he looked at the competition stage. Now that Prime Minister Sima saw that all of them had won, he felt that this was the descent of a fairy from heaven. Her name was well chosen. All of them had won. As expected, she had won as soon as she went up. He had decided that in the future, when selecting candidates, he would specifically pick those with auspicious names, such as Eternal Victory, Undefeated, and Champion. The subjects of East Phoenix Kingdom were so happy that they were going crazy. Their East Phoenix Kingdom had finally been able to hold their heads high. That Allwyn had won first place as soon as they went up. As expected, it was their East Phoenix Kingdom's mascot. Alright, these people had completely forgotten how they had won against all of them with flying eye knives. The people of East Feng Kingdom were happy, and the expressions of Emperor Nanxian and the other two were extremely unsightly. Not only had all of them won, but they had also won with a crushing advantage. The results of the three people from East Feng Kingdom added together had actually won first place. It was simply unbelievable. Originally, they had wanted to laugh at Empress Jiao in the afternoon. But now, they could see how Empress Jiao would be showing off when she arrived in the afternoon. Emperor Nanxian and the others did not doubt the results of the competition, because those referees were transferred from the 4 countries, so it was impossible for them to cheat. Finally, the host announced the final result of the alchemy competition. As expected, the East Phoenix Kingdom won first place. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom and Prime Minister Sima were ecstatic once again. It didn't matter if the East Phoenix Kingdom was at the bottom of the other events. At least they had won the alchemy competition. Emperor Nanxian curled his lips. Look at how promising the East Phoenix Kingdom is. We've won so many first places in the past, but we're not as smug as they are. Emperor Shiwen echoed, that's right. It's no wonder. The East Phoenix Kingdom hasn't won the first place in 800 years. It's not easy for them to get it, so they naturally get carried away. Emperor Beijing said disdainfully, didn't you hear that they all won? She just happened to win by accident. She's not a talented pill-making seedling at all. What's there to be happy about? At this moment, the contestants on the stage left the stage one after another, all winning and leaving the stage. Before the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom could surround them, the royal guards had already taken them away under strict protection. When Emperor Nanxian saw this, he sneered in his heart. Did he really think that she was a treasure? She was just lucky. After resting for 2 hours at noon, before the start of the array competition, Empress Jiao's luxurious palanquin arrived. It was the same as the day before. All kinds of shameless slogans were written on the flag. The palace maids laid down the ground-shaking snow cashmere carpet, and then everyone knelt down to invite Empress Jiao. Empress Jiao slowly got down from the sedan chair. Unlike the bright red she wore the day before, today she wore a dress that was as white as snow. She was floating in the air like a fairy. Empress Jiao looked around and then said indifferently, "Rise." After Empress Jiao walked to the VIP area, she had just sat down when Prime Minister Sima said with a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, we have won the first place in the pill refining competition." Empress Jiao only said indifferently, "Yes, I know. Prime Minister Sima, you are already quite old. You should be calmer when you encounter things. Isn't it just obtaining the first place? What's there to be excited about? If you were to obtain a few more first places, wouldn't you go crazy?" Prime Minister Sima, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.